Thank you to the CEO and the President of SciCO to be here in this presentation as well, and everybody else that is joined the webinar. Thank you very much. So to save time, I'll get going. Now, generally what we're talking about here is the transformation of the SANRAL service providers. Not so much of SANRAL itself as an organization. I think we're fairly transformed in all departments except at the senior engineering level, where there's been a dearth of black people available. So that's been a big issue. On the transformation on the male side, we are in a position now where the females are actually slightly more than the males. We're about 52% females and 48% males. So we're just about at the level or the economically active population stats are currently in South Africa on a national basis. So we recognize that SANRAL can help to build a capable and developmental state and drive economic development through the provision of critical infrastructure, in our case, freeways, highways, and regional roads. South Africa has embarked on the process of fundamental transformation that opens a path for inclusive, broad-based economic development. The transformation policy promotes growth, mobilizes investment, creates jobs, and empowers citizens through the provision of road infrastructure. We accept the responsibility to use our procurement spend to transform the construction industry and in general the South African industry, as the South African economy. SANRAL accepts the responsibility to maximize the participation of black contractors, professionals, suppliers, and designated groups in all our projects. We want to break down monopolies in the supply chain of materials, equipment, technologies, systems, and other areas within the construction and related industries to ensure the maximum participation of black South Africans. SANRAL commits to provide development support to black business through structured development programs and partnerships with industry players to ensure rapid development and growth of black entities. The entities in transitions, years 1 and 2, we're looking at BBBE contributor level of 1, 2, 3, and 4. That will be the financial years of 2019-2020 and then 2021. So the end of this financial year, which is ends in March of 2021, we're going to switch over to levels of 1, 2, and 3 only. The levels of 1, 2, and 3 only. And a year later, that's in 2023, March 2023, we're only going to do business with entities in contributed level 1 and 2. So it's critical that people understand this and gear up for that, or else they may miss out on opportunities that will come. Here in one slide, we've captured the transformational framework that we base our policy on. So essentially what we have is the SANRAL 2030 strategy up there. And one of the aspects of that is the transformational framework, to which we need to do some changes to the procurement strategy, which have been done, some changes to our HR strategy, which has been implemented already. And from there, we develop what we call the subsector transformation strategies. And the subsectors that we talk about are our capital projects, our maintenance projects, and our operations projects. So these three cover about 90% of our spend on a yearly basis. This is effectively in the industry itself, either in construction or maintenance or the operations. Operations covers our toll plazas, our toll collection aspects, the way bridges that we operate, and other limited type of stuff of that nature. So it's really operating what we have in order to keep our roads moving. Then we have the ICT sector, which is a very important section of SANRAL. Then we have the legal aspects. Many people want to take us to court. You probably have read in the newspapers and other media the challenges that we always thrown. So far, we've survived and we continue to prosper. And then we have the non-core services. This is just your general groceries and furniture and stationery type of purchases. Then we have the finance and audit, where we part of our internal audit is outsourced, and obviously the external audit is done by the AG. They don't do it for free; we pay for that, and we pay handsomely for that. We still get our backsides kicked from time to time. That's the nature of audit. The human capital, and then the property parts, and then an important aspect is the marketing and communications. So that around that is built our policy. And what we have tried to do is through the PICC, which is the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Council, and all the government entities under that, that's Eskom, Transnet, ourselves, Department of Water, Public Works, and Human Settlements, is to try and galvanize the effort and coordinate that we present as government one sort of strategy of transformation to the industry as a whole. So there's no confusion, there's no misunderstandings of the industry of what is required in South Africa if you are to operate in the construction industry. There will obviously be nuances towards what Eskom wants to do and Transnet wants to do. The broad policy we feel should be a combined policy and one that is speaking in one voice as government. Then we base our strategy on the requirements and the aspects that are captured in the new development plan, the national development plan, and the vision is out of there. And then we see this as enablers being the policy, advisory, suppliers, manufacturers, consultants, contractors, and subcontractors. So that's how our strategy was sort of put together. So this is the skeleton, and in there we filled in the parts in more detail. The strategy itself is available on our website, the 2030 strategy, and also the transformation policy is also available there. So we go on our website and we follow the prompts. The strategy and the transformation policy are there. So as I said, transformation central service providers across all the subsectors, as I've said, construction, maintenance, operations, property, information communications technology, finance and audit, legal, marketing and advertising, and communications in one, human capital, and the non-core services. Some achievements that we've made to date is that since the policy has been finalized and our documents have been put together, the pro forma documents that we use for our tenders, in the routine road maintenance project, the expenditure has been in those financial years, 17-18, 1.65 billion, almost 1.8 billion in the 18-19 financial year, and in the 19-20 financial year, which has just ended in March of this year, was 2.9 billion. Companies with greater than 51% black ownership, about 87% to 88%, and then down to 82% of the work in that category of work, and those with less than 51% black ownership, with much less. This is now showing that our policy is working, and people are reacting to that. In the conventional construction projects, you can see there's much higher spend in there. It's 9.8 billion, 7.5, and 7 billion, and the 51% black ownership got almost between 50 and 60% in those years, and then less than 51% black ownership got about between 40 and 48%, as you see the numbers across there. The most important factor here is the overall percentage of expenditure to greater than 51% black-owned entities in the period has been in the region of 60%, as you see the figures there. These are all audited figures. They're not things which I'm sucking out of my thumb. They're properly tested and checked over and over. So that's the achievement we've made since 2017. Now, prior to 2017, didn't mean that we didn't transform, but the effort became a lot more focused and more, let's say, determination set in that we had to do this in a much greater way. Now that there is sufficient black players in the industry that can react to these kind of challenges that are coming forward. The other achievements that we made, and these are recent achievements, in the RRM, the routine road maintenance, that's what RRM stands for, consultant appointments via an open tender process. 84 of these projects were let for tender starting from September of last year. The results are as follows. 44 of these projects were awarded to 100% black-owned entities. 40 of these projects were awarded to between 51 and 99% black-owned entities, and 0 were awarded to less than 51% black-owned entities. Now, this is a slide that is very critical for people who feel that transformation is not going to happen. It's happening. It's happening right now. And for those that missed the opportunity to bid for this, there's still another 46 of these projects to come in the next little while. So watch the National Treasury e-tender websites, watch our own website, and there are more opportunities coming. And then in the same routine road maintenance contract, the main contractor appointments were open tender process. 14 of these tenders have been led to date. The results have been 10 were awarded to 100% black-owned entities, 4 were awarded to 51% black-owned entities, and 0 were awarded to less than 51% black-owned entities. So here you can see the trend is stronger. So this is on the construction side. What we saw earlier was on the consulting side. And then a further breakdown of these is that 3 of these were awarded to 9 CE contractors. Previously, the 9 CE contractors got almost all of these projects. 4 were awarded to 8 CE, 1 was awarded to 7 CE, and 6 to 6 CEs. So there's also a trend here that previously the 8s and 9 CE 8s and 9s dominated the space. You can see there's a creeping in of 7s and 6s into the space as well. Because what we've done, we used to have about 80 of these projects before. We've unbundled them, made them smaller. That's why the 7s and 6s can now play in this space as well. The other important thing here, which I haven't included in the slide, which is fact, is that 6 of these 6 CEs, out of them, 4 of them have come up through the ranks. The routine road maintenance contracts, main contractor, the model that we use is the main contractor is there. He's just a managing contractor, and the routine maintenance subcontractors do the actual work. So these 6 CEs that you see have evolved over the last 7 or 8 years, from grade 2s and grade 3s up to 6s in the same package, and now they're becoming main contractors. So there's a definite growth path in this aspect, because the routine road maintenance contracts are generally less complicated, less complex, and require much less capital to enter into this. So you don't need a lot of equipment, you don't need a lot of money. So it's an easier way for new entrants to come in, especially entrants that don't have big capital backing behind it. So what we're saying is that transformation is starting to move in the right direction as is intended. The big thing is that to some it's still slow, too slow, and to others it's too fast. I may say it in openly, is that, let's say, to the previously privileged people it's too slow, it's too fast, sorry, and to the current who are trying to get in, it's too slow. But be patient, it will get better. I promise you in the next 5 years you'll see a major change in people doing and the entities doing the work for Sandra. These statistics will change as more projects roll out. The next area of importance that needs to be considered is the minimum 30% subcontracting rollout to the designated groups, being the black women, black youth, black disabled, black military veterans, and other groups listed in the April 2017 PPPA regulations. So what we're seeing here is that a lot more of this work will eventually start to get into transform companies and companies that are committed to do the right thing in terms of leveling playing fields in this industry and having a better reflection of the economic active population in South Africa. Opportunities for entrepreneurs, and I think a lot of you are waiting for this, and see where you can play in this space, how you can get some of Sandal's spend. As I said, 30% mandating subcontracting. Sandal's annual spend is, let's say, plus minus 15 billion. It's growing steadily over the years. I would think in about 2 or 3 years' time will be a 20 billion allocation from the fiscus. This 15 billion I'm talking about is only the allocation for the non-toll network. You can add another 5 billion to this for the toll network. But if the people in Gauteng start paying, then maybe that will get a bit more on the GFIP. Let's say about 14 billion goes into the built environment space. Therefore, 30% of that equals to about 4.2 billion per year. So the opportunities are coming, and we need to gear up. Those of you that are interested in getting into our type of work, the opportunities are coming, and these opportunities go across construction, consulting, and the material supply space. We're getting a lot of people entering the construction and consulting environment. That goes without saying. But the material supply space, this is the supply of bitumen, the supply of concrete, the supply of aggregates, the supply of cement. This is where the traditional dominance is still there. The monopolies still exist here. And this is where we need more of our people to move into. Because really, if you think about it, this part carries about 35% of a contract value. And a very strategic and critical supply, material supply that happen in this environment. So I think it's important that more of our people get into this. In the construction, upward mobility is artificially constrained due to the CIDB rules. In CIDB, although you might have worked for a bigger company before, and you've made your way up to being a construction manager, and you've run fairly substantial side of jobs, maybe 50 or 100 million rand type of jobs, you want to start your own business now. So when you go to CIDB and when you register your company, you start at a CIDB level 1, grade 1. Now at that level, the type of work you're tendering for is less than $500,000 in value. So you probably won't be able to afford your own salary. So I've engaged with CIDB personally, and I request that SAICI also does this, is to say that if somebody has got experience and has got the ability to manage a contract, why should they start at grade 1? They should possibly be starting at about grade 5, where they can compete with equals, rather than trying to compete at a level where people are really job seekers at grade 1. So I think that's something that needs to be taken up quite seriously with the CIDB. And then this upward mobility is artificially constrained because you should have done X amount of work over a period in grade 1, so you can move to grade 2, then you can move to grade 3. What I've seen from the experience with black companies that have come up the ladder, it's taken them 22 years to 25 years to get from grade 1 up to grade 8. Now we haven't got that time. Neither are we assured that the companies will last that long. Will they survive for that long? So something has to be done here with the CIDB, and they are in the space of looking at the act, reviewing the act, and coming up with new changes to the act. So I think it's critical time now that input is made here to say, well, if we continue with this, we're not going to get the black contractors that we need in sufficient numbers throughout the value chain. In the consulting space, the QME and the EME and QSE limitations are also a limited barrier to growth. Here, if you are been working as a consultant and you're a reasonably good bridge designer, structural designer, you also have to start at the EME level. You cannot tender for a QSE job. So if there's a project that the fees come to say 20 million, you can't play there because that falls in the QSE space. And if it's more than 25 million, then you're falling into the generic space. So here there's some artificial limitations as well that need to be addressed if you're going to get the upward mobility moving the way it should. That's some food for thought for you guys in the industry and fellow engineers. And also, I think the SAICIs and the CISAs of the world need to think about this carefully and see how we can break these, I would say, artificial barriers. All right, as I said before, the opportunities for entrepreneurs in the material supply space, there are very little barriers except for the capital funding and some requirements for permits and other compliance issues. So here, if you're going to start a quarry, you need a permit from the Department of Minerals, etc. There's environmental issues that need to be considered. So you need a fair amount of money first before you can start a quarry. Similarly, there are requirements of this nature for getting into the bitumen supply. There you got to react to the Department of Energy as well. So those are some opportunities. but they need a fair amount of capital funding. Then there's the equipment and plant hire opportunities. Here also capital funding constraints are there, but you can do deals with manufacturers of equipment, and they will help you to set up a company of this nature. Then in the specialist subcontracting, that's in the piling, geotechnical, asphalt manufacturing, paving, chips and other seals type of work. There's a lot of opportunity there on the SANRAL work, especially in the asphalt and chip and spray type of work. So there's opportunities over there. In fact, with the chip seals, we only have 3 suppliers. One very strong, that being Robex, and 2 sort of smaller companies, being Active Pambili and Roadspan. Roadspan is part of the WH group. So here there's huge amount of opportunity. Just to give you an example, SANRAL has 22,000 kilometers of roads. Out of that, 3,000 kilometers are in the concession roads. So we have about 19,000 kilometers. Once in 10 years, we need to seal these roads. So that means there's 1,800 kilometers coming out every year for seals. So this is a big opportunity area, and there's very little representation of black companies in that. Then in the specialized consulting, being the geotechnical, structural, being bridges mainly, traffic, labor-intensive type of construction, social facilitation and stakeholder management. Those are the specialist consulting, except, aside from the general consulting, which is there all the time. And the other area is research and academic areas. And here there's a lot of research needed in the nanochemicals, nanotechnologies, in able to bring down the costs and the complexity of building our roads. I mean, there are nanochemicals around that we can use in clays now, where you don't have to do all the big excavations that we generally do to build the layers required within some of our freeways. So with this, we can do a lot of quicker work and cheaper per square meter of roads. But we need to do a lot more work on this. The CSIR has done some work, but I think they've done all the theoretical stuff. The real practical side needs to be now explored and see how we can do that. Then on the IT side, we're moving towards things called smart roads, more technology into transport. We're not sure 10 years from now what sort of our transportation systems will be, especially on the freight side. They're talking about hyperloops and things like that. In the Middle East, they're now starting to build some of these hyperloops as trials, etc. So we also don't want to miss the boat. This is probably the area in roads where the 4IR comes into its own. So it's an exciting field into the future. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll deal with your questions at the right and appropriate time. Thank you very much.